Starting us off with number 10 is Asmodeus, better known as the King of Demons, one of the 7 princes of hell, or better yet, the King of the 9 hells. And here I was thinking there was only one hell. I'm mistaken clearly. According to Binsfeld's classification of demons, Asmodeus is the demon that symbolizes lust, which makes sense since he specializes in just that. Spreading lust. He apparently has 3 heads, one that looks like a man, one that looks like a sheep, and one that looks like a bull, and apparently the man head is the most evil. He also rides this horrific creature that looks like a lion, but it has a neck and wings of a dragon. If spreading lust wasn't enough, he also specializes in enacting revenge. He appears the most in the Book of Tobit, written in 400 AD, where he tortures Sarah, who is Regel's daughter. Regel just means friend of God. He kills 7 of Sarah's husbands all on their wedding night in order to stop them from consummating the marriage. He kills 7 of Sarah's husbands all on their wedding night in order to stop them from consummating the marriage. It's said that people who listen to him will spend an eternity in the 2nd level of hell. Now, I've given you all the info, whether you want to summon him or not, that's up to you. I'd probably say don't. Coming in at number 9 is Vine. No, not the 7-second video app that we all miss and spent way too much time on. In Christian demonology, Vine is, and I quote, known to be the trickiest, deadliest demon. He's a king of hell and he's also an earl. Fancy demon. Title demon. Vine is described as taking the form of a lion, riding a black horse, and holding a viper in his hand. So really, he could just kill you with any one of those animals if summoned and pissed off. And those 3 aside, he also governs over 36 legions of spirits. He's known to have the power to take a person's soul without permission, look into the past and present, and he can also create storms and make the oceans rough. He can discover hidden things and witches and bring down any structure he wants. People summon him to reveal their hidden downfalls and enemies, as well as help them build their lifetime goals. But with hard work, you can achieve that without summoning Vine, so just don't. At number 8 we have Belial. Now in the Hebrew Bible, Belial is basically talked about and described as the devil himself. Hello, alarm bells should be ringing right about now, red flags should be waving. His name translates to wicked or worthless, and the Dead Sea Scrolls title him the leader of the sons of darkness, the king of evil, the lord of lies, the prince of darkness, and the master of deceit. They say following Belial will make man cause bloodshed and other atrocities. According to the Satanic Bible, Belial is titled without a master, and so worshippers might look to summon him because he brings about independence and freedom. But I assure you, you can attain freedom and independence from other sources. You don't have to do this. His name is King of Evil, for God's sake. Filling our number 7 slot is Lilith, the first female demon on this list, and her name translates to night monster, because there aren't enough of those already. She can be found in the Bible, in Judaism, Roman and Mesopotamian mythology, but she's not found in the Quran. In some literature, she's depicted as the mother of Adam's demonic offspring after Eve. After refusing to be submissive to Adam, she left him in the Garden of Eden. In other literature, she leaves Adam before they have kids, and her demonic offspring are actually sired to the archangel Samael. The Dead Sea Scrolls warns against associating with Lilith. It says she loves frightening spirits of the destroying angels, demons, and spirits of bastards. Whatever that means, it sounds terrifying. She leads men astray in order to humiliate them. As the night monster, she embodies sensuality, terror, and unbridled freedom. She targets children and women in childbirth, and it's said that when a child is born, she has dominion over them for 8 days, and after that she has none. Hence, people use her to explain the death of a lot of infants. Lilith just sounds very mischievous, and if summoned, I just wouldn't trust her at all. I mean, she would probably lead me astray as well. So that's a hard no for me. Now at number 6 is Andras. With every link I opened to learn more about this demon, the first word describing him on every single one of those web pages was violent. He's known to be an all-round shit stirrer, to put it frankly. Andras is known to be able to slaughter entire households, and he's sent out specifically to kill. His very purpose is to create discord among humans, and once he's in your mind, he whispers thoughts of killing people and violence and escalates people's existing problems. He's also known to be easily provoked, so if you do summon him, try not to get on his bad side, otherwise it's highly likely he'll kill you and everyone in a 10-kilometer radius of you and have no remorse about doing it. And in case you were wondering what this demon looks like, he has the body of an angel, how ironic, the head of an owl, he rides a black wolf and carries a saber for, I'm assuming, slaying purposes. Coming in at number 5 is Vapula or Nafula. Now off the bat, this demon seems pretty harmless. He's known for teaching sciences, philosophy, and mechanics, and I'm assuming this is also behind the motive of why people summon him to begin with. His purpose is to make men know about all these different fields, but he's not just a nice professor-esque demon. Far from it actually. He governs 36 legions of spirits and demons and is the great Duke of Hell. He takes the form of a lion with the wings of a griffin, and because he's so smart, it makes him extremely crafty and deceptive. The people who get possessed by him start becoming smarter, but also more and more paranoid and distrustful of other people. Aside from knowledge, he specializes in deception, so it makes it very easy for him to manipulate virtually anyone. So if you do ignore me and decide to summon him, then be very wary and don't say I didn't warn you. At number 4 is Berith or Baal Berith. According to the Infernal Dictionary, Berith commands 26 legions of demons and has the title of the Duke of Hell. If you are trying to summon him, then you have to wear a silver ring with his specific seal and have it close to your face as a sign of respect. If Berith finds you're not paying the respect he's due, well then instant death is what awaits you. Aleister Crowley says that Berith is probably the smoothest talker you will ever meet, as well as the biggest liar. That's a killer combination. Just know it's guaranteed that if he's not answering a question, he is 100% lying. As a powerful demon, most people summon him for that reason, not realizing his main aim is to corrupt people who are seeking power. He can also show you the past, the present, or the future. A lot of alchemists actually believe he has the power to transmute base metals into gold, so a lot of people also summon him in search of fortune. Let me just leave you with the adjectives he's described with on every website I went on. Terrible, powerful, liar, hellish. Need I say more? Filling in on number 3 slot is Lamashtu. In Mesopotamian mythology, she used to be a menace to women who were giving birth and would actually kidnap their babies while they were being breastfed. After stealing those babies, she chews their bones and then drinks their blood. Definitely a demon not to be messed with. She's also been known for contaminating water, killing crops, and she enjoys wreaking havoc whenever she gets the chance. It's said that if you have the unfortunate luck of being possessed by her, then you'll suffer from grave nightmares, horrible sleep disturbances, and possibly a critical illness. So far, I'm hearing all cons for summoning her and not a single pro, people. But if you do summon Lamashtu, then you'll have in front of you a hairy creature with the head of a lioness, bird feet with talons, and donkey teeth and ears. Have fun with that. Now at number 2 is Beelzebub, which sounds like the name of a would-be cute round looking Pokemon, but it's far from that. Originally the Philistines worshipped him as a god, but later on he became a major demon in Abrahamic religions. He's known as one of the 7 princes of hell, as the Lord of the Flies or the Lord of the Flyers, and the Prince of Devils. He's also very high up in hell's hierarchy, and he's second just below Satan himself. In Christian demonology, it's said he led a revolt against the devil. He's Lucifer's chief lieutenant as well as the emperor of hell. At this point I feel like every demon on this list is either a prince of hell or a king of hell. Binsfeld's classification of demons associates gluttony with Beelzebub. Binsfeld's classification of demons associates gluttony with Beelzebub. He's usually held responsible for most cases of demonic possessions, and his best work was apparently during the Salem witch trials. He possesses people to do absolutely horrific acts, and he's known for spreading belief about false gods, mainly himself. Aesthetically, he's a small withered creature with a long tail, a forked tongue, ram horns, and either purple or red skin. Do you really need this demon in your life? No, you don't. And finally, at number 1 is Samael. In Hebrew, Samael translates to blindness of God, venom of God, or poison of God. It doesn't matter which one you choose to go with, since they all scream toxic as hell. In Judaism, he's the angel of death and one of the 7 archangels, and is described by Satan as the destroyer, the accuser, and the seducer. Samael is not a fallen angel like Lucifer. No, his duties were dark from the very beginning. He condones it when humans sin, he likes it actually, and he further tempts them to do it. People describe him as being good and bad because God created him to execute his will at any cost whatsoever. So with that primal responsibility comes a lot of consequences. Looking wise, he's even worse. Samael has glaring eyes from the top of his head to the soles of his feet. He has 12 wings and is so tall it takes 500 years apparently to cover any distance that's equal to his height. He's said to be the ruler of the fifth heaven and commands 2 million angels. When describing his nature and his aims, someone said he aimed to be the new god, but was evil, treacherous, and spiteful. I saw a thread on Reddit discussing how he makes Lucifer look good. Lucifer.
Number 10. A phone number? Yep, that's right. Getting a hold of a demon is even easier. Not only can you call them forth with white chalk circles and the blood of a virgin, you can also just use your cell phone, though the consequences may be deadly. If you are deciding to change your number, choose anything but 0888888888. This number has a history of dead bodies behind it and you don't want to be next. The first person to have this number was Mobitel CEO Vladimir Grashnov, who died of cancer at age 48 in 2001. Now we all know cancer to be one of the worst diseases on the planet, and worse yet, it can affect just anyone. So you may be thinking, though sad, his death is not unheard of. But then the number was passed on to a Bulgarian mob boss who was assassinated in 2003. Okay, he had it coming. But then how do we explain the sudden violent death of the number's next owner, Konstantin Dishlev, who was shot outside of a restaurant in 2005? Since then, the number has been suspended after the amount of bodies that followed it couldn't be ignored. Many believe that this number carried with it a demonic presence, condemning all its owners to death. Ooh, we don't know. Number 9, the dark mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall, be you cursed or not at all? Mirrors, although a resource for vanity, carry a lot of lore alongside them. From vampires to seers and doorways to parallel universes, mirrors aren't always what they appear to be. The dark mirror is a real object that looks like it came straight out of Harry Potter's Borgin and Burkes. It was purchased by its first owner at the Columbus Psychic Fair, so like, no wonder. Intended to be used as a scrying mirror, so you know, like a crystal ball. The owner reported nothing but disturbing images and terrible visions. Now it sits in a traveling museum where even visitors report seeing horrid images such as their own corpse or those of loved ones not yet dead. Not only does it look terrifying, but whatever left this object behind has something dark planned, and it should only take one guess as to what it was. A demon. Number 8. The Annabelle doll. Duh. Of course this doll was left behind by a demon. It was possessed by one, after all. Thanks to the movie series, this doll has become one of the reasons people have an aversion to them in the first place. I know I do. I remember American Girl dolls, you know? My friend was obsessed with them and I couldn't get over like their dark, beady little eyes, you know? Unlike the movies, Annabelle was actually a vintage Raggedy Ann doll that a woman named Donna received as a gift from her mom. That's nice. But the strange thing was, it had a tendency to move around the apartment. One minute it would be sitting on the bed, the next it would be on a couch or have its legs crossed. She suddenly started finding notes reading help in the apartment and came home one night to see the doll covered in a mysterious red substance, probably blood. We don't know. They contacted a medium who said the doll was simply haunted by a girl who passed away in the building. The doll allegedly killed their friend Lou when he got up to investigate noises after he voiced concerns about the doll. So that's when the Warrens got involved. The Warrens detected a sinister presence, a demonic being, a demonic one, straight from hell. And after a botched exorcism, the Warrens decided to keep it secure in a glass box at their Connecticut museum. That's one bit I never understood about that part. Like, why was their reaction after the exorcism failed to keep it and go, nah, we'll just keep it in a glass box so its beady little doll eyes will stare at the guests walking past. Just, anyways. Moving on. Number 7, superhuman strength. Many people who claim to have been possessed by demons claim they were left with a kind of supernatural strength. Ivy League educated, board certified psychiatrist Dr. Richard Gallagher witnessed this firsthand. Somehow this proud man of science became the church's go-to guy whenever there was an exorcism. Whenever someone tries to convince the church that they're possessed by a demon or know someone who is, they're sent to Gallagher for a mental evaluation. But in this interview with CNN, Richard never expected to see some of the things he did. But one of the most unexplainable things was the strength of one of his own patients. Gallagher says, and I quote from the interview, quote, "There was one woman who was like 90 pounds soaking wet. She threw a Lutheran deacon who was about 200 pounds across the room. That's not psychiatry. That's beyond psychiatry," unquote. The doctor is now a firm believer in the affliction and has even more stories to tell, but this was one moment that stuck with him forever. Number 6, overturned crucifixes. One of the more common signs of a demon having visited are overturned crucifixes. Imagine seeing a picture of your ex while visiting your family, or maybe they're famous and their pictures are everywhere. You'd probably want to put that picture frame face down so you'd never have to see it again. This demons can relate to, especially when you're a fallen angel who got kicked out of heaven. Seeing a sign of your old dad would probably piss you off, especially considering how famous God is and all. Many followers of Catholicism hang crucifixes around the house to ward off demons, but if one has chosen to visit, you may find one, if not all of them, flipped upside down to honor the guy below, so watch out for that. Number 5, sulfur. Have you ever smelled rotten eggs out of nowhere? Well, I'm here to tell you that demons fart too. Yep. They're just like us. Demonic spirits tend to leave behind the scent of sulfur because, you know, they're from the burning pits of hell and it smells like rotten eggs down there. You remember that scene from Shrek where Donkey thinks Shrek let one rip? Yeah. Brimstone is the biblical word for sulfur. So if you suddenly pick up that scent, do these 3 things. 1, check to see if someone is peeling some hard-boiled eggs. 2, ask your friend or whoever is beside you if they let one rip. 3, if the answers to 1 and 2 are no, then get to the church ASAP Rocky. Regarding number 2, make sure you surround yourself with the kinds of friends you know you could get a straight answer from about that. You know, no one needs that kind of doubt when demons are at play. Number 4, unexplained bites and scratch marks. Ever woken up with a scratch you couldn't explain or a bruise you didn't know you got? Well, I'm sorry to say that unless you sleep like this, then you probably were visited by a demonic presence, or at least a ghost. In an attempt to possess or torment you, restless spirits will try to cause you harm if they can't enter your body. So if you do sleep like, then make sure to keep your nails filed so you can distinguish between accident and evil. Number 3, the Antichrist. Many evil people on this earth have been accused of being the Antichrist, from Osama bin Laden to Rasputin and even a couple of popes. But what is the Antichrist? Well, he's the son of Satan. The Antichrist is prophesied to be the complete opposite to Jesus, said to be born of a woman who lies about her virtue. So, in a way, Satan, as the king of demons himself, leaves behind his spawn to wreak havoc on the earth. Also known as the lawless man and son of perdition, Christian lore has evolved this theory into categorizing anyone who fits the bill as an Antichrist. An easy identifier is someone in power who seeks to oppress and destroy the good and the poor. I'm sure a couple names come into mind. Number 2, poltergeists. So, many people know poltergeists to be ghosts on steroids, basically. They're angry, vengeful spirits that just love to mess with your shit, essentially. They are literally able to pinch, bite, break, and attack humans as well as break your TV. But many people don't believe they aren't just ghosts, but something more, like a demon or the psychic energy left by one. They are very similar to succubuses, who are a kind of demon that feed off your energy. So, like Dementors from Harry Potter. Man, that's 2 Harry Potter references in one video. Are we impressed? I think so. Anyway, since demons are drawn to those who are tormented by, let's say, depression, this seems like a pretty likely idea. Some theorize it's a kind of residual demonic possession that a living person is unknowingly controlling. Number 1, night terrors. One of the most terrifying nightmares I ever had in my life involved demons, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. It was so creepy. It was so real. It clung to me all day until my friend offered to help me cleanse my room, and I was like, no! Now that makes it real. But the creepy part about nightmares is that throughout history, there are a series of patterns that reoccur depicting demons involved with nightmares or night terrors. A great example is the painting The Nightmare by Henry Fuseli, which depicts an ape-like creature sitting on the chest of a sleeping woman. Anyone who's ever experienced a night terror, not to be confused with nightmare, knows how terrifying they are. Your body literally freezes in a state called sleep paralysis, and you essentially dream while you're awake, unable to move. During this state, you could be visited by sleep demons, 1 of 3 to be exact. A documentary called Nightmare reviews the 3 most common demonic images people see while in this state: a man in a hat, a shadow figure, and a cat with red eyes. If that's not a demonic visitation, then I don't know what is. Hopefully, you now have a couple more signs to watch out for in your daily life that will help you avoid demons.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have a Mexico circus demon. This demon story takes place in Mexico in 1942 and is a son recounting his father's story from when he was 20 years old. The father and his younger brother went to check out the circus that had just arrived in town. They were most excited to see the freak shows, but after checking them out for a while, there wasn't really anything that was piquing their interest. They met a couple girls and they were about to go check out some music when a man wearing a dinner jacket came up and started talking to them. them. He said he was the greatest illusionist in the world and that he could show them a trick both scary and amazing. He also said that he wasn't actually part of the circus and that he had auditioned, but they said his act was so frightening they couldn't allow him in the circus. The father and his brother were both very intrigued now and asked to see the trick, and the man said he could only show them if they came to his trailer, which wasn't too far away. In 2021, we know that you never go to a stranger's trailer, but they all followed the man in this story. Once at the trailer, the man begins his trick. He holds up his right hand and then puts a white glove on it. He then waves his left hand around his right, wiggling his right fingers and chanting some words that the guys didn't understand. He then asks if they're ready. The guys reply yes, and the man pulls the white glove off of his hand, revealing his hand as only a skeleton. The man even went as far as to grab the father's head with his skeleton hand to prove it was real. The boys, of course, got out of there as quickly as possible. In our number 9 spot today, we have the demon on the veranda story. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far, because it really helps us out. This story takes place in a small village in India when the storyteller was 16 years old and living in a boarding school. All the girls slept in a big hall, and one night, one of the other girls, named Malty, woke her up around 1 a.m. as Malty wasn't feeling too well. She goes to get some water and went outside on the veranda with Malty to try and help her feel better as she was feeling very nauseous. She looked to the right and saw the far end of the veranda, and there was only one light, and the rest of the light was all coming from the moon. After a while of comforting Malty, she looked up to the right again and saw a kind of cat-like figure, but after a closer look, this cat had the head of a human and was bald with big eyes. She tried to convince herself that her eyes were deceiving her, but it began getting closer and she could see it more clearly. She was frozen with fear, and by the time this creature was around 10 meters away from her, it let out a meow sound that absolutely terrified her. She screamed, grabbed Malty, and got both of them back into the hall where everyone was still sleeping. This of course woke everyone up though, and the warden came over to see what all the commotion was about. She asked the warden not to make any loud sounds and begged her not to open the door. Everyone in the hallway looked outside and saw this shadowy creature moving before it just disappeared. To this day, she still isn't exactly sure what she saw, but she's glad she has never encountered it again. In our number 8 spot today, we have this sleep paralysis demon. This story comes from the Reddit user JStation666, and this is what they had to say about their demon encounter. I was laying in bed and fell asleep, and I woke up not being able to move or scream. I tried my best and it went on for about 5 minutes. It stopped, but after that I felt hands around my throat trying to choke me. I look up and all I see is a very tall black outline of a figure with flaming hair, and I could feel its long finger-like claws around my neck. The next morning I get up and there's red marks around my neck of what looks like very large hands. Sadly, I didn't take a picture when I should have, but after it's hard for me to get to sleep in a dark room. I feel like I would have thought this was just a scary case of sleep paralysis, but the waking up with hand marks around their throat truly is very scary and kind of unexplainable. I am glad that they made it through this frightening situation. In our number 7 spot today, we have this eye-changing demon. This story comes from the Reddit user Katzabar from a time when they were around 11 or 12 years old. He starts off with explaining that they moved apartments a lot growing up, and no matter where they went, entities would always find him, and he also tells us that he had bright blue eyes like his mother's, which will be important later. They moved into a new apartment and things immediately began to go poorly. He had a dream where he was in a bright white room and there was a beast on the ceiling that looked into his eyes and roared. The roar obviously frightened him and he woke up screaming, which of course woke up his mother, who rushed to his side. His mother was also very frightened, not only because she woke up to the sound of her son screaming, but because his scream did not sound like a little boy's, but was like the scream of a grown man. If this whole situation wasn't already strange enough, after this dream, his eyes turned from that bright blue color to a hazel color and have never changed back to blue. If that really is true, I have no idea how that happened, and that is honestly pretty crazy. In our our number 6 spot today, we have this gray skin demon. This story comes from Pink Magic 724 on Reddit and is about a night they had a few years ago while still in college. Pink Magic's best friend of many years was in town, so they went out for a dinner to catch up and spend some time together. They, of course, end up getting a bit caught up, as best friends do, and before they know it, it is around 2 a.m. and definitely time for them to head home. Pink Magic's friend was the one who drove, so they headed off to Pink Magic's house. They're at an intersection waiting for the light to turn green when Pink Magic turns their head and looks out the window into the car next to them. This is when she sees the person next to them is looking directly at them, but they have gray skin, completely black eyes with no white, and they are smiling, but their teeth are long and sharp. Whoever or whatever this thing is, it will not break eye contact. Pink Magic tries to scream, but no sound will come out, and eventually the friend sees the creature too and immediately speeds out of there. To this day, neither of them like to talk about it, and neither of them are quite sure what exactly they witnessed. In our number 5 spot today, we have this demon in your mind. This story comes from Sylvie on Reddit and starts off a few years ago after an argument with a friend. This friend was really upset, so Sylvie went to bed, definitely not feeling great about what had just happened, and Sylvie's behavior that led to this argument. About halfway through the night, Sylvie thinks that they had a dream, but they can't for sure say because they remember it so clearly. Sylvie woke up and had a knife in their hand, and the room was illuminated by the moonlight. As they looked around the room, they saw on the wall some words that looked like they were written in blood. Sylvie looked around the room again when something caught her eye. There was some sort of creature in the dark corner of the room that looked like one of those deep sea fish with the scary eyes and the really sharp teeth. I think they're called anglerfish. As soon as Sylvie saw this creature, the moonlight in the room changed to a flashing orange light, and this is when Sylvie definitely woke up in a cold sweat. Sylvie chalked it up to just a really scary dream and went and got ready for school and went about their day, but they just could not shake this feeling. After the first period was over, Sylvie was feeling really anxious, and they reached up to the cross necklace they were wearing when a voice spoke in their head. The voice said, "God won't save you." Sylvie said that they had a few more incidents with this demon, but after firmly telling it to leave and using their religion and faith as a guide and a protection, they have luckily been demon-free ever since. In our number 4 spot today, we have the demon in the basement. This story comes from the Reddit user DreamGuy72 and starts off in his first apartment in the summer of 1992 in Casper, Wyoming on none other than Elm Street. The apartment was a basement suite where Dreamguy and his boyfriend lived, and their friends occupied the main floor suite above them. One day, Dreamguy was home alone and was repainting the main bedroom when he decided to take a break. After he had a drink, he headed back into the main bedroom, but this is when all of his hairs stood up. He saw that there was something painted on the opposite wall from the one that he had been painting. His heart was absolutely pounding as he walked up to the writing, and this is where he saw that the paint was still wet and dripping down the wall. The paintbrush he had been using was exactly where he left it, and there wasn't any paint on the floor. The words just said, "I am here." He of course got out of there as quickly as possible, and when he told his boyfriend later, he just kind of dismissed it. A few months go by and Dreamguy and his boyfriend get home after a long day of both of them being out of the house all day. Dreamguy heads to the shower to get ready for bed, and as he's in the shower, he hears the bathroom door open and close. He of course just assumes it's his boyfriend, and he's rinsing the conditioner out of his hair when he asks his boyfriend if he is joining him in the shower, and that's when he hears the response, "Sounds good to me," but it is not his boyfriend's voice. He then feels ice-cold hands grab his shoulders and spin him around as he opens his eyes to see that no one else is there. He of course bolts it out of the bathroom, and he's now in the front room trying to catch his breath when he sees his boyfriend shaking, pointing to the bathroom, saying he saw it go in there. It's safe to say that Dreamguy didn't live there for much longer, and I am very glad he made it out of this apartment and lived to tell the tale. In our number 3 spot today, we have this lady ghost demon story. This story comes from the Reddit user 7-Leg Spider, and they really just dive in. Basically, for several years, Spider saw what they thought was just a lady ghost every night at the door of the closet. It happened for so long that Spider just got used to it and even started saying goodnight to her. Spider says she didn't look bad or rotten, she was just a lady with pale skin and dark hair. Anyway, after a few years of this, Spider finally tells a friend at school about the lady. This friend, of course, didn't believe the story right away, but the next day at school, he tells Spider that this lady tried to hurt him while he was sleeping. Now, Spider didn't believe the friend and thought he was just playing a prank. Some more time goes by and Spider decides to tell another friend about the lady, and the same thing happens where the next day she comes and tells Spider that the lady had tried to hurt her while she was sleeping. The first friend and the second friend didn't even know each other, so it's not like they could have been conspiring, which made Spider believe his first friend was telling the truth. Then, a while after that, Spider is on a video chat with a friend and they're talking about the paranormal when they both see something run across the screen. They chalk it up to just being a computer glitch, and Spider starts telling his friend about the lady, and then Spider begins to get extremely dizzy, like they're going to pass out. After it goes away, Spider tells their friend that they're okay, and the friend replies that they were out of it for at least a full minute, and that he could feel that someone was there trying to hurt Spider. I'm really glad that Spider and all the friends ended up being okay, and I really hope that they found a way to get rid of this lady demon. In our number 2 spot today, we have Zozo. This story comes from Reddit user Archaic Alchemy, who we'll call A. When A was 22, they were staying with their sister, and one night they had a couple of good friends over to hang out, and they decided to play around with a Ouija board, which is always the start of a good demon story. A had read about people encountering an entity called Zozo, and A really wanted some proof that things exist beyond our physical realm, so they wanted to use the Ouija board. Everyone places their hands on the planchette, and A calls out to Zozo. It took a few attempts before anything happened, but then the planchette began to move in figure eights. No matter what was asked, it just kept moving in figure eights until it finally spelled out M-A-M-A. That's us, we're MA. Maybe they were talking about our channel. A kept asking who they were talking to, and eventually they spelled out Zozo, and then things really escalated. The planchette was taken to the letters to spell out kill you, and when A asked who, Zozo spelled out one of the friends' names. They didn't take it seriously and kept asking more questions, and one friend made the mistake of insulting Zozo. The planchette begins frantically moving through the alphabet backwards over and over before it just stops. Then the energy in the room completely drops, and A knows that this means Zozo has manifested itself. Suddenly, A begins to laugh maniacally with no control over it. A could feel Zozo's presence inside and could feel Zozo turning all of this hatred and anger towards the friend that had been named before. A's emotions suddenly completely switch and they begin crying uncontrollably before again suddenly snapping back to anger. A's head turns involuntarily to look at the friend with a menacing grin as A pushes the planchette towards the friend. The friend decides it's rightfully time to leave, and shortly after they left, A felt like they regained control and Zozo's presence had disappeared. I'm so glad that nothing even crazier happened and that Zozo wasn't able to harm this friend. In our number 1 spot today, we have Velgrod. This story comes from the Reddit user Wheezy Donkey. Since he was a child, he's had interactions with a demon he knows as Velgrod. He first noticed the demon during the night as he was trying to fall asleep. It would continue saying his name quietly over and over again. This happened about once a month on a random night as he was trying to fall asleep, and he tried to ignore it, but every time it happened, the voice was a little louder because it was getting closer. One Friday night, he heard the voice and realized it was right at the end of his bed. He was frozen in fear, and every other night, if he waited long enough, the demon would just leave, but this time it wasn't happening. He found a lot of courage and lifted the blanket to inspect what he hoped was just his overactive imagination, but what he saw was too real for him to believe it was just imagination. This creature was tall and lanky with the yellow eyes of a reptile. His eyes were also bulging and very far apart. The creature apparently appeared as though he had been burned all over his body as he had charred and blistered skin. When the creature opened its mouth, it revealed its long lizard-like tongue that descended to its chest. In his right hand, he had a cane he was using to keep himself from falling over, but the cane was covered in barbed wire. In his other hand, Velgrod was holding the Bible that was on the nightstand. When he held the Bible up into the air, it was immediately engulfed in flames that left nothing but ash. Velgrod kept eye contact the entire time as he used his foot to spread the ashes across the floor in a certain pattern, at the same time hissing menacingly. Velgrod then turned and began to walk away towards the door and down the stairs. Wheezy Donkey sat frozen with fear for a while before working up the courage to inspect the ash on the floor. When he finally did, he saw that the ash spelled out, "Hell is below you." Ooh, that was creepy.